Welcome to today's meditation time. So I am living proof that you can meditate anywhere. I have enjoyed my time being away this week. We are on a cruise and we are actually headed back north to Galveston tonight. And I have really loved each of my main evenings when we have meditation together, that the alarm goes off and the activity stops and I get to come back to the present moment and share it with each of you. And so it really has just proven that even in the midst of just the routines of life and the things that we're involved in, we can still find the present moment. So let's just get comfortable where we are, wherever you are in your home. I will be comfortable here on this big ship in the middle of the ocean. And let's just all close our eyes together and begin to settle in and find a comfortable pace of breath. Just beginning to discover that connection between the inhale and the exhale. Find the balance between the length of the two. And give yourself a little physical comfort as you do it. And I hope that you, just like I, get this little feeling inside of you when the alarm goes off and says it's time for meditation. There's something grounding and comforting about the stability of our practice. And that is what we're going to experience across these few minutes. And so as you've begun to settle in and find a breath that feels right for you, I want you just first to give yourself a little bit of grace. Because as we go through these minutes together and share this practice, there'll be times that your mind is going to try to wander and remind you of all the things that you need to do or you should have done. But just let those thoughts just drift away the same way they try to drift in. And you come back to this breath. One inhale, one exhale at a time. And the focus for our time together today is a quote by Eckhart Tolle. I've been sitting with this quote for a few days this week, and I'm ready to share it with you now and just talk about what it can mean for our personal lives, individually and collectively. He says most humans are never fully present in the now because they believe that the next moment must be more important than this one. But, he says, when you live that way, you end up missing your whole life because your whole life is never not now. So just think about that for a second. We've all gone through these parts of life, these different phases where we're just anticipating what's coming next because we are convinced, whether it is intentionally or unintentionally, that whatever's coming next is better than what is now. But what we end up doing is missing the now. Because the older that we get and the wiser that we become, we realize life doesn't happen in the past, but it also doesn't happen in the future. It only happens in the here and the now. Just like your breath. You don't not take in the inhale because you're thinking that the 3 inhales down the road is going to be better. No, you breathe in now because what you need is breath in this moment. The same thing happens in the situations of life. What we need is the experience of the amazingness of this moment. So I asked in the beginning that we'll start off with grace. And so we're all guilty of this. All guilty of living in the next thing, the next anticipated moment. And so let's just individually and collectively just give ourselves some grace and realize that no matter how we've done it up to this point, we want to do it a little bit better moving forward. We want to figure out how to be fully present in the now because that is where our life is happening. And so as you've just settled into your spot and I am in my spot and our eyes are closed, I want you to get a visual of a river. Jon Kabat-Zinn talks about a river every time he teaches about mindful practices and meditation. And he says, just picture a river. Maybe it's a river you've seen before in your life. Maybe you've seen it in a movie, but just picture it. And what you know about a river is that it flows. It's not like a lake. It's not still. It constantly has movement. Some rivers more than others. And it's always moving in one direction. You can look upstream and you see the water coming down, and you can look downstream and you can see the water's headed out. It's constantly in motion. If you've ever sat in that river, you've ever been a part of it as it's moving, sometimes it can get a little overwhelming. Sometimes you can feel like you're stuck. Sometimes you run into things that were unexpected. And all of a sudden you get a little catch in your heart, in your chest. But the idea of the river is it's constantly moving. And so Jon Kabat-Zinn says when you're trying to really establish a mindful meditation practice in your life, you got to get out of the river. You have to make this conscious choice to step out and sit on the bank. And as you choose to make that choice, you will become an observer, a witness of each present moment. You'll watch each ripple go along down that river. Each branch that's carried down the water, each fish that you see, each little cap of the wave. You'll become an observer and a witness instead of someone who's just getting carried along by the motions. And he uses that analogy because that is how we can mindfully live, and how we can practice the opposite of what Eckhart Tolle said, that we can truly live in the now instead of just being in anticipation of what's coming next. So as we sit here together for these next couple of minutes, just picture that river if your mind starts to get distracted. But don't just picture the river. Picture yourself consciously, intentionally sitting along the bank, witnessing, observing, being aware of what's going on. And when you can begin to see that in that analogy of the river, you have the first glimpse of what it's like to live mindfully in the here and the now. Because that's all it's asking us to do. To become this aware, active witness to life. Not constantly looking upstream to see what's coming next, but to sit there and notice what's right in front of us. We have to practice retraining our mind to this type of mindfulness, because we've conditioned ourselves to something very different. But again, we're going to give ourselves grace, and we're going to start from this moment and try a little bit differently. So let's just sit and breathe for these next couple of minutes, just visualizing ourselves on the bank of the river. And as you see those ripples just kind of going down with the water, some of them very forceful, some a little more peaceful, some somewhere in the middle. Just imagine that is the everyday activity of life. And as you sit on the bank, no longer will you just be carried along, but rather you'll become this incredibly aware witness to the majesty of the present moment. So before we grow quiet together, let's take a long, slow, deep breath in. And then gently just let it go. And another long, slow, deep breath in. And gently let it go. And I want that breath to be calming, so that as you sit on the bank of the river and you see yourself there, you don't feel like you're missing out on something, but rather You're part of something even bigger and better. Just continue to breathe. Continue to visualize. And then the byproduct of that will be that you continue to be here and now. And as we continue to breathe together, I'd like to turn Eckhart Tolle's quote into a few affirmations that will carry us through the rest of our evening and maybe stay with us going into tomorrow. So I'll start off with part of what he says, and then I want to share an affirmation that you and I can use in our own personal life. He said, most humans are never fully present in the now. And so for us, our affirmation says, I am fully present in the now. I am fully present in the now. Maybe you repeat it to yourself. Maybe my words can hold space for all of us one more time. I am fully present in the now. And then he goes on to say, because humans believe that the next moment must be more important than this one. And our affirmation says, this present moment is enough. This present moment is enough. Maybe you say it to yourself, and again, maybe my words can hold space for all of us. This present moment is enough. And then he ends that quote and he says, but then these humans miss out on their whole lives, which is never not now. And so our affirmation says, I choose to be in the now. I choose to be in the now. And again, one more time, you can say it to yourself, or my words can hold space for all of us. I choose to be in the now. And as you let those words just kind of sit with you, resonate a bit, I know the reality is that tomorrow is going to be busy. And tomorrow you're going to encounter things that you had not anticipated. And tomorrow it's going to be really easy to fall back into the old habit of just hanging on till the next moment, anticipating whatever's coming next. But if you will come back to the breath, come back to just a tiny split second of stillness, and remind yourself, this present moment is enough. And I choose to be in the now. It will take practice, it will take time. But I am a living example that it is possible. And it can be possible for you as well. So as we begin to get ready to close our time, I want to share those affirmations one more time with you. I am present. This present moment is enough. And I choose to be in the now. Let's make that how we end our day today and how we start our day tomorrow. And each time we need a reset, come back to the breath, come back to the affirmations, but most importantly, come back to the present moment. Namaste.